Hi there, I'm Jamie from Perfect Caterer. Just a little quick idea of what we do. We connect customers to food trucks and traditional caterers. So if a person is looking for a food truck or a caterer, they can just fill out a form on our site, and based on their selections and stuff, it'll go to the correct people. So it just makes it easy for a customer to connect to a food truck for catering or an event, or a traditional caterer for things like a wedding or whatever. Alright, so today's video will be about 8 things you must know before opening a food truck. Now, there's probably more than 8, but these are based on my opinion. I've been in the food truck business for quite some time, and so I'll give you my thoughts on that. So food trucks have been increasingly popular in Canada and the United States, especially in our area of the world. Food trucks have really taken off in the last 10 years. There's a good reason for that. There's a lot of good uses for food trucks, filling in events, obviously for catering things, temporary setups for food, movie sets, all that. There's lots of good reasons for food trucks to exist. They've been around for a long time too, but just in the last, I'd say, 10 years, it's really taken off in our area. So let's get on with the 8 reasons. The number 1 reason I put, anyway, this is all based on my experience in the article that this video is made for. Just so you guys know that these videos, if you come across them on like YouTube or somewhere, it's based off an article from our website. And the link should be in the description, if I could only speak. Anyway, so let's get on with this. Number 1, understand that food trucks are hard work. This is probably one of the biggest things people don't understand. If they've worked in the food industry before, particularly a cook or chef, they know. Even like obviously waiters and waitresses work very hard too in the industry, but the cooks and the chefs really work hard, long hours of prep and all that stuff. So if you know that and you're coming to the food truck world, it may not be quite as much of a shock, but frankly, unless you're running a whole kitchen, like chefs who run the whole place, a food truck is a lot harder in a lot of ways, especially at big events when you're working like 16-hour days and stuff. Some people do that in restaurants too, but either way, a lot of hard work. So if you're thinking to retire in the food truck business, I'm not saying you shouldn't, because people should do what they want to do in life, for sure, but I've seen so many people who buy a food truck and then think it's their retirement plan, and within a couple months it's for sale or closed, because it's just so much work, right? The food business in general, like I was mentioning, is one of the hardest businesses to be in and employed in, and that's why tips and all that are always appreciated in those businesses because of that. So yeah, prepared to work very hard. If you think about it, there's stock, prep, cleaning, maintenance of the truck, promotions, bookings, staff, all these things. And unless you're doing big dollars all the time, which in our area is not, you can make good money, but it's not possible to do, $10,000 a day every day. So unless you're doing big numbers, they can hire a lot more people to help you with these things, or your family-run business where you can all share in it. You're going to be working a lot of hours. And another thing too, also, is that when you make good money, especially if you're doing events anyway, and not just street parking, that's a different ballgame altogether. If you're doing events, you'll be working when everybody else is on vacation or taking time off. So just remember that as well, typically anyway. Okay, number 2, find out your local regulations. Now, this is a big one, and I'm just going to base because everywhere in the world and every region of the world, every city, every town, every county or whatever you have in your area, it's going to be different, these regulations, right? So I'll go base it roughly on what our regulations are in our area, which are very strict, a little overboard sometimes, but in some ways it's good. But anyway, a lot of things. So again, before buying a truck or building a truck or anything, look into all these regulations. Look into the permits you need and everything, and business licenses, all that stuff. Because if you don't, you buy a truck and all of a sudden it's not to compliance. You're spending thousands and thousands of dollars more. For example, if you buy a truck in our area and it's not grandfathered in, which I don't think it is, and or if the permitting for the propane system was never done, you could be talking about $5,000-6,000 just to change the propane lines in the truck. So make sure you know what the regulations are before you buy. Okay, so I'm going to go down a list of some of the things that are required in our area. Your vehicle, if it's a new truck and it's just being built, I didn't run into this problem, but I've heard it can be in certain cities in our area, that the city will want a blueprint of the build and everything else of the truck. Which, if you're paying somebody to do it, shouldn't be hard, but either way, that's something you may need. This is not required everywhere in our area, but there's certain cities that apparently do. I haven't run across it myself, though. Electrical. What are your needs? How much electrical do you need? What, all that kind of stuff. Generator do you need? All that kind of info you would need to know before you build. And even if you buy a truck, you kind of need to know what you need to power it, right? If it doesn't come with all that, or you want to change something. Anyway, electrical needs, you'll need to be inspected. It'll be installed by a professional, and an inspection agency will ensure it's to code, and you'll get a decal put on your truck. Number 3, propane system. I just touched on that a little bit, but it needs to be inspected, installed by a professional, and approved. Again, you'll get a decal for that. And also, please keep in mind that any changes to that need to be done by a professional as well. Number 4. If you cook with grease or have greasy food or whatever and you're cooking, you'll need a hood system and a fire suppression system installed, and 2 different types of extinguishers besides the fire suppression. So you'll need I think it's an ABC and a K-rated, I believe, for the oil, extinguishers, so that you can put out fires manually, and then the suppression system is there as well. Number 5, hood and fire suppression systems. So the hood system, where the fan is and all that, blows all the grease out, and the fire suppression system, the hood system needs to be cleaned by a professional. You cannot do it yourself any longer, even if it's spotless. It doesn't matter. You need to be a professional to do it and give you another decal on your truck saying that it's been cleaned by a professional. That is every 6 months. Some will put a year if you're a food truck that doesn't work year-round. Fire departments give you a bit of grief about that because they don't like it, but let it go. Either way, it's supposed to be every 6 months, and sometimes they can even, if the fire department doesn't like it, to get too greasy, it can be every 3 months. It used to cost $200. The last time I got it done was $700 every 6 months. So yeah, expensive. Just keep that in mind. And it can only be cleaned and serviced and everything by approved service providers. That's the reason why the price keeps going up. Gone are the, it says on here, it's funny. Gone are the days when you could clean your system yourself. I don't mind the fire system and that being checked, because, what do we check for? We don't know. The little links that break off if there's a fire and all that stuff, they can wear out over time. So it's good to get that checked anyway. But in terms of the hood system, you should be able to wash it yourself, but you can't. At least not in our area. Number 6. Generators over 3,000 watts require a separate permit, even if they are bought within the country. So I have been asked about this. The fire department keeps approving me, and they don't seem to care about this permit thing. May change it, drop of the hat, change it, go there one day for our inspection, and they can say sorry, right? So regardless, anything over 3,000 watts, you're supposed to have a separate permit for, even if a person off the street could go buy that and use it anywhere they want without that. All right, number 7. You'll need a health permit for your vehicle or for the food truck, and need to be inspected and permitted. And you'll also need to take a food safety course. It's like $75 or something. Teach you food safe and all. I have no problem with that. They just recently switched it though, so it's renewable. When you got your food safety course and you passed your test, that would last forever before. You would never have to renew it, nothing. Well, now, not only do you have to renew it, there is no, which I'm not arguing with because I don't want more problems, but you don't need to take a test or anything. You just send them the money, and what do you know? It appears. So it doesn't really help anybody. It's just a money grab. But anyway, that's one thing you'll need here, is to renew it every 3 years as well. I think the renewals is cheaper though, I think. But either way. Number 8, commissary kitchens. Some trucks, not in my region, thankfully, we don't need a commissary kitchen. A commissary kitchen is where you can go to prepare your food, store your food at night after you close your truck. You got to bring it all in and store it. Do dishes, all those things. Now, that's all well and good if you could somehow make it, which you can, make your house, if you have a space in a garage and you make it a proper kitchen and stuff, you can have your own commissary kitchen out of your house. Or if you have a basement suite that isn't being rented by anybody else and has a kitchen, you could possibly use that. But if you don't, you need to rent one. Well, typical rents for those kinds of things are about $1,500 a month. So add that to your bill. My area, thankfully, doesn't need that, and if it did, I probably would just sell and be gone because I'm not paying $1,500 a month just to go store my food. What I personally do in our vehicle, in our truck, is we have a power outlet where we plug into at the place we park it, and we can get fresh water there and everything else, and we just use sandy dumps to dump the gray water. Then what I do is I just plug it in there, and I have a monitor that monitors if it goes out of power, and then notifies me. So then I know food safety has been adhered all night, so there's no power outages, especially in the summer, right? And the food has gone off and then recooled, and I don't know the difference. Well, I do, and it's the device I use is actually used in medical facilities, so it's very, very accurate and very consistent, or reliable, I should say. Number 9, all equipment must be certified for this country. So we're in Canada, so it has to be CSA approved. They will not accept American certifications, so therefore we pay more for our stuff because it has to go through a separate process again. Now, if you have a deep fryer from the States installed in your truck, I've seen some people get away with that. Some inspectors don't care too much, but others are like, no, we're going to replace it with a Canadian one. Everything has to be CSA approved. You need a professional to install it, and all that stuff. Even if it's just basic common sense stuff, you need a professional. Now, a lot of trucks don't do that, but you're supposed to. And then one of the other things, they need to pull a permit. So let's say you have a broken deep fryer, and you hire somebody, because you're supposed to hire somebody to come and replace it with the new one. You have to pay a permit for that, and it's based on the BTUs of the unit on how much the permit costs. Number 10. I don't want to seem too rude about this stuff, but some of it's just a little overkill for me. A lot of it I agree with, but some of it's just outrageous. But anyway, number 10. Any truck over 5,000 kilograms, any commercial vehicle over 5,000 kilograms, you need to take a course, online course, and get your NSA number, National Safety Code number. Now, this course is outrageous. You need to do an online test, which doesn't sound hard. It's open book, but the book is online. It's not really a book. It's their website with literally hundreds and hundreds of pages of things to read through. And the questions randomly select things out of those pages. It can be a notified update of a change in the guide, squirreled away somewhere, and you only have an hour to take this test. And it's a lot of questions in an hour. So anyway, you're going to take this test, pass it, which allows you to get insurance. Now, this test also covers things like long-haul truckers and movie set operators and logging companies and all this stuff in this test. So I don't get it. It's required for anything over 5,000 kg, otherwise you can't get proper insurance. Like I said, 90% of the course doesn't apply to food trucks, and yet you have to take it. And that's $200 non-refundable, pass or fail. And by the way, it can take 11, 12 weeks to even get the ability to take the test without talking to anybody. It's just like 12-week wait. So that's one of the areas I find insane. Anyway, I'm trying to keep this upbeat, but some of this stuff frustrates me. Anyway, number 11, obviously you need vehicle insurance, and that's if you're over 5,000 kg, which most food trucks are. Since our local insurance companies or providers, one provider is owned by the government, they also require the NSA number before you can even get the insurance. So, yeah. Number 12, liability insurance. A lot of events, which I think this is a good idea, a lot of events require it because if there's an injury or something or whatever, your food causes illness, whatever, everybody gets pulled into these lawsuits, right? So it's a good way to protect yourself from anything that, like, you've made somebody sick, hopefully not, but or whatever, somebody trips over something you left outside, whatever the case may be, you got liability insurance. Good idea. 13, business licenses. Now this is a fun one. So every city in our area is different. Every city requires a business license if you're there street parking or for some event. Sometimes the event itself has a main license, so you don't have to worry about that. But typically, if you're going to be in any city for any length of time, you need a business license, and every single one is different. For some reason, in our area, there's a thing called a trade license for trade, like plumbers and stuff. They get one license, and it kind of lets them go to most cities without buying more licenses. The food truck business hasn't got there yet, and we need to buy a license for everyone. And every city seems to want more money than an average license. For example, let's say an average license costs 120 or $100, $120, which it probably is about there. Some cities will want $1,600 a year for a food truck, and only allow you to go to 2 locations or something. So there's a wide range. Most cities out here I find pretty good, and they'll let you park on private property as long as you have a note from the landlord or whatever stating that you're allowed to be there. Which is the way it should be as far as I'm concerned. I don't mind regulations where they don't allow you to park in front of another restaurant or something. I don't mind that so much either. But anyway, they charge a lot of money in certain circumstances, and every city wants you to buy their license. That adds up. Number 14. Before you can apply for a license, or as you apply for a business license, usually the city will want a health permit and a fire department approval, or if they've inspected and approved it, before they'll issue you a license. Again, I'm not overly concerned about that. I think that's not a bad idea. You may be required to be inspected again. Every different city may require one. Like, there's a few cities that require you to inspect regardless of if you've been inspected by another city. When I first started, all the cities were different, and all of them would want you to be inspected. So every event you went to, they'd have, like, sometimes you go to an event, the same event in the same city for 3 days in a row, and they'd inspect you for 3 days in a row. So, or if you do an inspection one day and you go to the city over to another event, in that city, they'll inspect you again. So in terms of the fire department, that's gotten better because 95% of the cities now in the local area anyway have come together. You do one inspection a year, and you're good. So they may walk by and look at your decal and say you're good, see if you're good, right? Because they give you a decal. There's a few cities that still require you to come and inspect, even though it's the same rules, same everything, before you can get a license or attend an event there. We just don't do those cities anymore. It's not worth the effort. Health inspect you anytime. I don't mind that. There's no yearly thing for that. Oh, there is actually technically a yearly inspection, but because we go to events, we get inspected at events a lot, so they don't make us typically go and get a separate inspection. So yeah, anyway, it complicates things. It's gotten a bit easier in that regard, but then there's also drawbacks of fire departments now also adding extra things to the list of what you're required to operate with, right? So like, a couple of years ago was a fire bell, for instance. You had to have a fire bell in your truck, which was never required when they got the truck, but wasn't grandfathered in, and therefore you needed to upgrade. Things like that. But either way, much better system than it was before. Okay, so let's continue on with number 3 on the main list of topics. Understanding food costs. Now, obviously, this is very important. And food costs change, so don't sit back and do your calculations once and then sit back and go, oh, it only went up a penny, oh, it only went up $1, oh, blah, 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 right? Because it eats away your profit. And I've noticed that a lot this year because the inflation has gone up so rapidly in the last year that we've had to up our prices multiple times. So keep an eye on that. For an example of this, if you just sat back and didn't look and didn't think about it until you go broke, for example, when I first started, a 5 kg box of bacon, $13 to $16. Now, today is about $50. So, big difference. If I sat back and wasn't paying attention, and I have done that, it starts to eat away your profits big time. And canola oil. And I'll try to put the American equivalents to my weights and sizes and stuff subtitled in here. What was I saying? Oh yeah, canola oil. It was $19.99 last year, or no, a year and a half ago. It has now gone up to as high as $58, and I'd say the average is probably $47-ish for 16 liters. So that is a lot of increase in a year and a half. So that hopefully will drop back down. I don't know. Anyway, keep track of your food costs. Number 4, food truck day-to-day costs. Now, this is one that really creeps up on you. The food pricing is one thing because you can kind of you get the bill, so you kind of look at it, right? But not that you don't get bills for other things too, but it's all usually itemized unless you're spreading yourself out buying from all different places, right? And mentally you do it enough that you'll know. But day-to-day costs, sometimes it creeps up on you for things like business licenses, insurance, all that stuff. But on a day-to-day cost, without any breakdowns or anything else, I estimate our cost is around $170 a day just to run a basic day, without staff or anything. That's not employee costs. That's gas or diesel for the truck. We have diesel for our truck. Propane to run the equipment. Fuel for the generator. Some people have propane for that. We use gas for that, so we have 3 different fuels of fuel. And just basic, wear and tear and stuff, basic things throughout the day. So that's around $170 a day. Especially with the cost now, it might even be a bit higher. Gas has doubled in some cases, or diesel, I should say, has doubled. Or almost doubled right now. It's still pretty high, but it's a little lower than it was. So anyway, watch your food costs. It also depends how far you drive and all that, obviously. But just be careful. And remember, dumping dumping your gray water, filling up with water, all that stuff. If you need to pay for those things, some people do, it can add up a lot too. Number 5, employee costs. Now, this is a major category, obviously. It depends if you're family run. If you guys run as a family, it may not be as bad. But if you need to have staff, this is a big one, especially in our area, because not only do you have to pay extra on top of your employees' source deductions, like taxes and all stuff, you need to also contribute some to them. So you need EI, employment insurance, and CPP, Canadian Pension Plan, needs to be contributed on top of theirs. You need to match it, and sometimes 1.5 times. I think EI is 1.5 times their contribution or something. But now they've also introduced 5 sick days a year too, paid 6 days. And then in Canada, you got every month, pretty much, you got at least one stat holiday that you have to pay them for as well. That all depends on if they're full-time and all. Anyway, but typically you end up paying that. And then anything over 8 hours, you also pay time and a half. Anything over 10 or 12, I think, is double time. So, and in a food truck business where you work, 12, 14-hour days, that really adds up, unless you have lots of staff that can come in or change out, so you're never paying overtime, but that's also more staff to monitor, make sure they're all showing up, blah, blah, blah. So employee costs are very large, especially in long running events and days. All right, number 6, food truck event costs. Now, this cost can be very beneficial, and it can also be very expensive. Either way, the bigger events are quite expensive to attend, but they bring a lot of people in. So I don't want to put people down who charge these, and that's not my intention. There are some places that charge ridiculous, like 25-30% commissions, that just do not deserve 25-30% commissions because they don't provide the traffic to justify that. There are reasons why you would pay a 25% commission or 30% commission. Well, we never pay a 30%. We will not pay that. But we do attend events that charge 25%. And we do those because they cost a lot of money to put on these events, and they bring in tens of thousands of people. There are some of the smaller event organizers, or events, not necessarily organized, but events, that charge 25%, and those are really hit and miss. We do some of them, but we know which ones kind of typically to avoid. We still get stung by some of them, but anyway, back to the point. Just do your research, make sure you don't pay too much. The average one is 15% probably, or a flat fee. That's the other way. They get you somewhere like a flat fee of $700 to attend an event that you never heard of before. I personally we used to do that. I never do that anymore. If I don't know the event and can't research it, or it's not suggested by a reputable event organizer, we just avoid them. So anyway, do your research depending on the type of food you have, everything. Truck event costs can be very expensive. So just make sure you do your math and think about what you're doing first. For example, do your research. If you are invited to go to a Bollywood event, like East Indian event, and you serve burgers, might not be something you want to attend because, in our experience anyway, I could be wrong, but most East Indians don't eat burgers and all that kind of stuff. So just do your research, attend the events that suit your food, and do your research on the event. All right, number 7, understand how to market your business. Now, this is obviously, they're all major things that you should be thinking about anyway, but this is quite important. Now, if you're just a person who attends events and that's all you do, and you spend your time just trying to get into events and that's all you're doing, well, you don't have to worry too much about some of this marketing conversation we're going to have here. But either way, most trucks do other things like catering and all that stuff on top of it, or street parking, all that kind of stuff. So, number 1 on this list is make your truck look catchy. So have a nice design on it. Get it wrapped, whatever you can afford, of course. But get it wrapped. Have your contact information on it. Have some of your social media, displays on it, icons on it, so they know where to find you. That kind of stuff. Number 2, have a decent looking website. This can be costly. You don't know how to do it yourself, but at least have something that people can get there and contact you with, or through, I should say, and use that to build other ways to contact you, like newsletters and all that stuff. Anyway, that stuff works. I'll talk more about that in a sec. And number 3, have ways for customers to contact you, such as email lists, through obviously Facebook and all that stuff. Again, that'll be on this list too. But SMS system, text messaging system, mobile app where they can download the app and you can contact them that way. Lots of ways to get contacted. Just make it easy for you to contact them and then to contact you. Facebook, or number 4, Facebook and other social media pages, obviously, your Instagram, all that kind of stuff. They're not so effective as they used to be. We don't do as much as we should on Instagram, so I'm not going to talk about that too much, because we do have an Instagram account and it does okay, but I haven't really focused on Instagram because we're pretty busy as it is, so we haven't needed to. But for example, though, Facebook has gone down to there's lots of traffic and stuff. We have a large following on there for a food truck in a small region anyway. We have a large following. But unless you pay to play, even if the people liked it, maybe 5% of them see it every time you post something. Or if it's just about funny jokes or something, then it may get pushed to more. But typically, if it's anything about business, they will throttle you and make it so your customers don't see. So it's pay to play. So you don't have to pay for advertising for people you've already gotten to like your page. So do your social media differently. There's probably better ways to do it than that anyway. I just haven't had time to dig into that more. Number 5, keep your eye on your reviews. If you get negative reviews, which is inevitable, any truck that doesn't have any negative reviews is either legally getting them removed, complaining till they get removed, or paying people to remove them, or whatever the case may be. Everybody gets a negative review, so just deal with it correctly. Try to be nice. You can't please everybody, but try to do the best you can. And ask your customers to leave good. Don't ask them to leave good reviews, but ask them to leave reviews when they're at your truck. Don't bribe them or anything like that, but just mention or have a sign up saying, "Oh, please leave a review at blah blah blah." Right? You can even do QR code things that they scan with their phone, brings them to a review page. Whatever. Reviews are quite important. Number 6, add yourself to Google Places. Now, if you're street parking and you have a business location, and you ask them if they mind if you add yourself to Google Places using their address, and a piece of mail, I think it's still that way, a piece of mail gets sent out to them to confirm with a number, and so you enter it on your listing, and it confirms that you're at that address and everything else. If they allow it, do it. It's a good way for people to find you. Number 7, shameless plug. Join places like Perfect Caterer, a great source for business. We're new, so we're just growing on that, but it'll be a very affordable and a great way to get customers, especially catering, obviously, customers. And catering is a big thing. You want to, if you're at all in the business permanently or for a long period of time, you intend on doing it year-round or for a long time, you want to focus on catering. Bottom line is you want to make it so that people can find you, customers can find you. You never know who you're serving. So make sure that, with nowadays, they take a picture of your sign on your truck that has your contact info, whatever it is, and you get calls. It happens all the time with us, so we get business from an event we have attended. So keep that in mind. Number 8, how to find food truck catering and events. this is always at the forefront of our workload. You'd think after 10 years, you just naturally get into events. Well, it's easier. It gets easier to get into events as they know you, especially if you're a busy truck and there's a commission base. They like that. But either way, there's a few events that we don't have to worry too much. We know we're going to get into. We still contact them every year, well before the event, so they know that we're interested and they let us in. But there's events constantly changing, event organizers, people buying the event, all that stuff. They don't necessarily get told what trucks were there before. They don't know. They don't care. So therefore, they will need you to contact them every year. So don't think that you can just do it once and you're done. Every year you need to contact these events and make sure that you're in and make sure they know who you are. In terms of catering, obviously, Perfect Caterer, Google, Facebook ads, whatever it takes to find catering. The longer you're in the business, the easier that does get. We do get a lot of catering, but we also have website things that are around and Facebook and Google and all the other things we do. So, it does get a bit easier, but it's still a lot of work. It takes up 30% of our time, probably. All right, the conclusion. Well, hopefully I didn't turn away too many people. I was trying to be quite light on some of the negative things. I will do a video on the positive things about food trucks, because there is a lot. But long hours, expensive, labor intensive, always have to get new events every year, and so on. It's not an easy business, and it's not something for people to just jump into for fun. Obviously some people jump into things for fun that are hard and they like it. So, I'm not discouraging people, but just be real what the business is. It's very hard, very competitive, and expensive. And I wouldn't have been doing it for 10 years if I didn't enjoy it. So there are good things, and I will do an article and a video about that eventually. But so just be aware. If you don't like to drive, you don't like people, I've seen that. You're older and not in great shape physically when you're older. You might want to think about not doing it. And not willing to put in weekends and long weekends and long hours. You may want to find something else. So I don't want to turn people away, because there's always success stories, and people, are more. I know some people in this business that work twice as hard as I do, and they're loving every minute of it. So I don't want to turn people away, but just be real about what the business requires, and it's a lot. All right, well, thank you for watching, and hopefully I didn't ramble on too much there. These videos are part of our articles on our website, so forgive me if I'm reading off of stuff and that. It's just part of the article that we're covering, so I can make a video for it. But hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, please check out the site if you're looking for catering. Food truck catering or traditional catering, or have an event that you want a food truck to attend, please check out the site. And we're in a very narrow region right now, but we're going to expand. So anyway, check it out, and hopefully enjoy it, and I'll talk to you in a bit.